If you've ever worked in a family business, you probably know how blurred the lines can get between family and employee. In my case, those lines weren't just blurred, they were erased completely. I wasn't treated like a son who was helping out. I was treated like free labor, disposable and replaceable, while my brother, who couldn't even be bothered to show up on time, was handed everything on a silver platter. My parents owned a mid-sized distribution company in the Midwest. Nothing glamorous, but it was steady, profitable, and had been in our family for 2 generations. By the time I graduated college, I was practically groomed to take over. I'd spent summers hauling boxes in the warehouse, managing spreadsheets in the office, even riding along with delivery drivers when someone called in sick. I knew every part of that business inside and out. But my brother, Adam, he never lifted a finger. He'd roll in late, leave early, and manage from his phone while sitting in the back office scrolling social media. Still, my parents insisted he was the natural leader. Why? Because he was loud, charismatic, and told them what they wanted to hear. Despite all that, I gave everything to the company. 60-hour weeks weren't unusual. I sacrificed friendships, relationships, and even my health because I thought, this is temporary. One day this will all pay off when I inherit the business. Then came the gut punch. One Friday afternoon, my parents called me into the conference room. I thought it was about a new contract we were negotiating. Instead, they blindsided me. My mom's words are burned into my memory. Son, we've made a difficult decision. We can't afford to keep paying 2 full salaries for management right now. Adam will stay on. You're being let go. I laughed at first. I genuinely thought it was a joke. I had been pulling double shifts while Adam barely broke a sweat. But no, they were serious. My dad muttered something about how Adam needed stability more than me, since I was resourceful and independent. They handed me a small severance envelope like I was some random intern. I walked out of that building shaking with rage. I'd given them years of my life, and they tossed me aside like trash. Adam smirked at me as I packed my things, and I swear that smug look still haunts me. That was the day something in me snapped. I swore I'd never crawl back to them. I would build my own path even if it killed me. What I didn't know then was that the path I chose would lead me right back to their doorstep years later. Only this time, I'd be the one with all the power. When you get fired by your own parents, it does something to you. At first, I felt humiliated, crushed, and directionless. My friends told me to take legal action, but honestly, it wasn't worth it. My parents had always framed the business as the family legacy, so all the contracts and paperwork were stacked in their favor. And suing my own parents at 24 years old? That would have only cemented their story that I was ungrateful and difficult. So instead, I did the only thing I could. I walked away. The first few months were brutal. I applied everywhere, but no one wanted to hire someone whose entire resume screamed, family business. I ended up bartending nights just to make rent. It was humiliating to serve drinks to guys I used to negotiate contracts with, but at least I had cash flow. During those late nights, though, I started paying attention. I noticed how certain distributors, smaller than my parents' company, were agile and innovative in ways my family's business never was. They weren't afraid to embrace e-commerce, diversify suppliers, or streamline logistics. Meanwhile, my parents' company was still stuck in the 1990s mindset of phone orders and fax machines. That gave me an idea. I took every bit of savings I had and poured it into creating a small consultancy that helped regional distributors modernize their operations. I wasn't selling products, I was selling efficiency. And it worked. Within 6 months, I had 3 clients. Within a year, I had 12. By the end of year 2, I wasn't just consulting. I had built enough capital and connections to start my own distribution company. Here's the irony. I modeled my company on everything my parents refused to do. Online ordering, transparent pricing, fast delivery times, and treating employees like actual human beings. While my parents cut corners, I invested in tech. While they played favorites, I built a culture of meritocracy. And people noticed. Customers started switching. Word spread that our delivery times were shorter, our website was easy to use, and our customer service was actually helpful. By year 3, we weren't just a competitor, we were the competitor. I still remember the day I saw one of my old drivers, who had left my parents' company out of frustration, wearing a uniform with my company logo on it. He grinned and said, "Best decision I ever made." That moment lit a fire in me. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. But with every victory, there was a shadow. I heard whispers that my parents' company was struggling. Contracts they once held exclusively were slipping away. Morale was low. And Adam? Well, let's just say charisma doesn't go very far when customers are furious about late shipments. Part of me wanted to laugh. Another part of me wanted to scream, "You did this to yourselves." But a third part, one I tried to ignore, still felt the sting of betrayal. Because no matter how successful I became, deep down I was still that kid who just wanted his parents' approval. It wouldn't be long before fate forced us back into each other's lives. And this time, they wouldn't be calling me son. They'd be calling me sir. 3 years after being fired, I had built something real. My company wasn't just surviving, it was expanding. We had 2 warehouses, a small but loyal fleet of trucks, and contracts that stretched across multiple states. For the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't living in my parents' shadow. Then one morning, I got a call that made my blood run cold. It was my mom. I hadn't spoken to her or my dad in almost 2 years. Sure, I'd heard things through the grapevine, rumors about late orders, employee walkouts, even a lawsuit from a supplier, but I had cut ties completely. Seeing her name flash across my phone felt like a punch to the gut. I let it ring. Twice. 3 times. Finally, against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was shaky, almost desperate. "Son, we need to talk. It's about the business." I didn't say anything at first. Just silence. Let her feel the weight of it. Then finally, I asked, "What about it?" That's when the truth started spilling out. Their biggest client had pulled out. A competitor, my company, had taken over a huge share of the market. Employees were quitting faster than they could replace them. And Adam? He was apparently stressed and overwhelmed, which was my mother's polite way of admitting that he had no idea what he was doing. "We're in trouble," she admitted. "If something doesn't change soon, we might lose everything." And your father thought, well, we both thought that maybe you could come back. Help us. Save the company. I almost laughed out loud. Save the company? The same company they had thrown me out of like garbage? The same company where Adam got to stay, while I was tossed aside because I was too resourceful? I took a deep breath. "You fired me, remember?" "That was a mistake," she said quickly. "We were under pressure at the time. Your father thought Adam needed the experience more. But you've always been the strong one. You know how everything works. You could turn this around." I didn't respond right away, because in that moment, I realized just how bad things must have gotten. My parents weren't the type to admit they were wrong. For them to swallow their pride enough to call me the son they betrayed, meant they were desperate. And for the first time, I wasn't the powerless one. I was the one holding the cards. Still, I couldn't help asking, "Where's Adam in all this? Shouldn't he be handling it?" Silence. Then a sigh. "Adam isn't capable. Not like you." Hearing those words felt like gasoline on an old wound. Years ago, when I begged them to notice my work, they told me Adam was the natural leader. Now, when everything was on fire, suddenly I was the capable one. I told her I'd think about it and hung up. But here's the truth. I didn't need to think. Deep down, I already knew my answer. The question wasn't whether I'd save their business. The question was, would I let it die? Or would I be the one to put it out of its misery? I told myself I wouldn't go. That I'd ignore my mom's call, block her number, and keep focusing on my own company. But curiosity has always been my weakness. A week later, I found myself parking outside the very building I once considered my second home. Walking through those glass doors again was surreal. The reception area looked the same, but emptier. Faded posters hung crooked on the walls. The chairs in the waiting area were worn, one of them literally ripped at the seams. For a company that used to pride itself on appearances, this place looked tired, beaten down. My dad came out first. He looked older, much older than 3 years should have made him. His hair was grayer, his shoulders slumped, and there were deep lines on his face. My mom followed, wringing her hands, her smile forced. And then Adam appeared, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my first month's rent back when I left. He was scrolling on his phone, barely acknowledging me. "Son," my dad said, extending a hand like we were business partners instead of family. "It's good to see you." I didn't shake it. I just raised an eyebrow. "Is it?" We sat in the conference room, the same one where they'd fired me. The memory hit like a freight train. The smug look on Adam's face, the envelopes sliding across the table, the words, "We can't afford 2 managers." This time, the energy was completely different. My parents looked nervous. Adam looked annoyed, like I was wasting his time. My mom started, "We know we made mistakes in the past. We should have valued you more. But the truth is, we need you now. The company is struggling." Struggling was an understatement. I'd done my homework before coming. They'd lost 3 of their top clients, 2 of them to me. Their revenue had dropped nearly 40% in 2 years. Lawsuits were pending. Debt was piling up. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "You fired me for Adam. How's that working out?" Adam scoffed. "Don't act like you're some savior. The economy tanked, suppliers bailed, drivers quit. It's not my fault." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Sure, Adam. None of it's your fault. Just like nothing was your fault when shipments were late or when contracts slipped through your fingers. You've been blaming everyone but yourself since day one." He slammed his hand on the table. "You think you're better than me just because you started some little company?" "Little company?" I repeated. "Adam, my little company just landed the Midwest logistics contract. Ring any bells? That was your biggest account." The silence in the room was deafening. My dad's jaw clenched. My mom looked down at her lap. Adam turned red, sputtering something under his breath. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. "Look, we can't change the past, but we can move forward. If you come back, we'll make you a full partner. Equal shares with Adam." I cut him off. "Stop. You don't want me back because you suddenly believe in me. You want me back because you're sinking, and I'm the only lifeline you have left." My mom's eyes welled up. "Please, this is our family's legacy. We built this for you and your brother. Don't let it die." I wanted to feel sympathy. I really did. But all I felt was anger and maybe, deep down, a twisted sense of satisfaction. Because for the first time, they were the ones begging me. And I hadn't even decided if I wanted to give them the mercy they were asking for. Driving home after that meeting, my head was a storm. Part of me was buzzing with adrenaline. Finally. My parents had admitted they needed me. But the other part of me felt poisoned. Because I couldn't forget how easily they had tossed me aside when Adam needed stability more. Why should I save them now? I poured myself a drink that night and sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. A single text from my mom blinked on the screen. "Please just think about it. Don't let years of hard work vanish." For a brief moment, guilt crept in. It wasn't just their hard work. I had bled for that company. My fingerprints were on its systems, its clients, even its warehouse layout. In a twisted way, it felt like part of me would die if it went under. But then I remembered Adam's smirk when I was fired. My father's words, "You're resourceful, you'll be fine." My mom's silence while I packed up my things. That guilt curdled into rage. Still, I knew I couldn't make this decision in a vacuum. I called the one person I trusted most, my former coworker, David. David had been a driver at my parents' company before he jumped ship to join mine. He was more than an employee. He was a mentor, someone who'd seen me grow from a kid sweeping floors to a man running a company. When I told him what happened, he let out a low whistle. "So they want you to swoop in and play hero, huh?" "Pretty much." "Let me guess," he said. "They didn't offer you control. Just equal shares with Golden Boy Adam." I nodded. "Exactly." David laughed bitterly. "Son, don't fall for it. They haven't changed. They just want to use you again. If you save that business, Adam will take the credit the second the dust settles, and you'll be back where you started, fighting for scraps while they hand him the crown. His words hit hard because they were true. Later that week, I met up with my best friend, Jason, for drinks. He's blunt to a fault, which is why I trust him. When I laid everything out, he didn't even hesitate. "Dude, let it burn," he said. "Seriously, they fired you, they humiliated you, and now you have leverage. This is karma handing you the steering wheel. Why waste your time saving people who proved they don't give a damn about you?" I swirled the beer in my glass, staring at the bubbles. "Because they're my parents." Jason leaned in. "Parents are supposed to protect you. Instead, they chose your brother and threw you away. Blood doesn't make family. Actions do. And theirs? They showed you exactly where you stand." I didn't answer, but the words lodged deep in my chest. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My parents' company was collapsing. Adam was flailing. And for once, I wasn't powerless. The choice was mine. Save them and erase years of betrayal, or let them choke on the consequences of their own arrogance. For the first time in my life, I had all the power. And God help me, I liked the way it felt. A week after that first meeting, I got another call from my dad. His voice was tight, forced calm. "Son," he said, "we've been talking. We realize our offer might not have been sufficient, so we'd like to revisit it. If you come back, we're prepared to give you majority control. 51%. Adam will retain shares, but you'll have the final say." I almost dropped my phone. Majority control? For years, they insisted Adam was the heir apparent. They fired me to keep him in place. And now they were ready to hand me the throne? Something didn't add up. I agreed to another meeting, mostly out of curiosity. When I walked into the office, the tension was thick enough to choke on. My mom looked hopeful, my dad looked exhausted, and Adam looked like he was ready to explode. The moment I sat down, he sneered. "This is bullsh*T. Why should he get control? He abandoned us." I laughed, sharp and cold. "Abandoned you? You mean after you shoved me out the door with a severance envelope and a smile?" My dad raised a hand. "Enough. This isn't about the past. It's about survival. Your brother has skills. But you? Skills?" I cut in. "His skills include being late, making excuses, and draining the company dry." Adam shot up from his chair, red-faced. "You think you're so much better than me? You're not. You just got lucky with your little startup." "Lucky?" I leaned forward. "No, Adam. Luck didn't build 2 warehouses, land multimillion-dollar contracts, or steal your biggest client. Hard work did. Something you wouldn't recognize if it smacked you in the face." The room went silent. My mom looked like she might cry. My dad rubbed his temples. Adam stormed out, muttering curses under his breath. After he left, my mom whispered, "Please, don't let this destroy our family. We're giving you real control. We're admitting we were wrong. Isn't that enough?" I stared at her, and for the first time, I noticed the desperation in her eyes. It wasn't just about saving the company, it was about saving face. They were terrified of losing the business, of watching everything slip through their fingers. But here's the thing, their offer wasn't about me. It was about survival. They weren't suddenly enlightened. They were cornered rats looking for a way out. That night, I sat in my office at my own company, staring at the signed contracts on my desk. My employees were thriving. My clients were happy. We were growing faster than I ever imagined. I didn't need my parents' business. And yet, the temptation gnawed at me. The child inside me still craved their approval, still wanted to hear them say, "You're the one we should have chosen all along." But the adult in me, the man they fired, humiliated, and underestimated, he wanted revenge. The scales were tipping. And soon, I knew I'd have to make the final call. It happened on a Wednesday morning. I was in my office, half asleep with my 3rd cup of coffee, when my head of business development walked in with a file. She dropped it on my desk with a smirk. "You're not going to believe this," she said. Inside was a proposal from one of our biggest partners. They wanted us to consider a full acquisition of my parents' company. Not a partnership, not a merger, a buyout. I stared at the papers like they were written in another language. It laid everything out. Their assets, their debts, their client list, their dwindling market share. And right there at the bottom, the asking price. It was shockingly low. Lower than I ever thought I'd see attached to my family's so-called legacy. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding. It hit me all at once. This was it. The universe had just handed me the power to not only save their company, but to own it outright. No Adam, no parents pulling strings, no shared throne. Just me. When I told Jason that night, he almost spit out his beer. Dude, that's it. That's the revenge arc writing itself. You don't just beat them, you buy them. I laughed, but inside I felt sick, because as tempting as it sounded, I knew what buying them out really meant. It meant destroying the very thing they had sacrificed me for. It meant proving, in the most brutal way possible, that they had bet on the wrong son. Part of me reveled in that thought. I imagined Adam's face when he realized the company he clung to like a safety net was gone. I pictured my dad's pride crumbling, my mom's excuses drying up. But another part of me hesitated. Was this really who I wanted to be? The man who crushed his own parents just to settle a score? A few days later, I met with my parents again. This time, I didn't let them lead the conversation. I dropped the offer letter on the table. Their faces were priceless. My dad went pale, my mom gasped, and Adam, who had slouched in late as usual, snatched the papers and read them twice before slamming them down. "This is a joke," he shouted. "We're worth way more than this." I chuckled. "No, Adam. You were worth more. Not anymore. This is reality." My dad looked at me, eyes heavy. "So this is why you came back? To gloat? To rub salt in the wound?" "No," I said calmly. "I came back because you called me. You begged me. And I told you I'd think about it. Well, I thought about it. And now I have an option on the table. One where I don't just help you. I replace you." The silence that followed was suffocating. My mom's lips trembled like she wanted to beg again, but she didn't. My dad's jaw was locked. Adam was red-faced, sputtering insults. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and said, "You fired me once. Now it's my turn to decide whether I fire you from your own company." And with that, I walked out. The ball was in my court. For the first time ever, I was the one with the final say. After dropping that buyout offer on the table, I thought I'd feel nothing but triumph. But the truth? The following days were complicated. My phone lit up constantly, calls from my mom, texts from my dad, even emails from Adam written in all caps. I didn't answer any of them. I let them stew. Let them feel the silence they once forced on me when they cut me off without a second thought. Then the begging started. My mom left a voicemail in tears, saying, "Please, don't do this. Think of our family. Think of the legacy. We made mistakes, but we love you." My dad followed with a colder message. "If you go through with this, you'll regret it. This isn't just business, son. This is blood." And Adam? Well, Adam didn't beg. He raged. He showed up at my office unannounced one afternoon, pounding on the front desk until security escorted him out. Before they pulled him away, he shouted loud enough for the whole floor to hear, "You'll never be better than me. You're nothing without them. You'll burn just like we are." My employees stared, wide-eyed, but I just smiled and said, "Escort the visitor out." Inside, though, I was rattled. Adam had always been the spoiled golden child, but seeing him unhinged like that, it drove home just how much this buyout meant. Without the company, he was nothing. No title, no power, no identity. And that's when the guilt started creeping in again. Late at night, lying awake in bed, I kept asking myself, was I really about to annihilate my own family's business? Was revenge worth becoming the villain of my own story? Jason, of course, had no doubts. "Hell yes, it's worth it. They dug this grave. You're just deciding whether to throw dirt on top. Don't get soft now." David, on the other hand, was quieter, more thoughtful. "You have to ask yourself what kind of man you want to be," he told me. Because once you do this, there's no going back. Family or not, you'll be the guy who took everything. That stuck with me. Meanwhile, the pressure mounted. Rumors swirled in the industry. Clients whispered that my parents' business was circling the drain. Some even joked that I'd be the one to put the final nail in the coffin. One evening, as I was locking up, I saw my mom waiting by my car. She looked smaller somehow, fragile. She walked up slowly, her voice trembling. "Please, son, don't destroy us. We're still your parents. We may have failed you, but we don't deserve to be erased." For a moment, I almost cracked. I almost told her I'd reconsider, that I'd find another way. But then I remembered the conference room years ago, her silence while Adam smirked as I packed up my things. So instead, I said, "You should have thought of that before you chose him over me." Her face crumpled, and she walked away without another word. Watching her go, I felt both powerful and hollow, because deep down, I knew I had already made my choice. The buyout process moved faster than I expected. My legal team was already drafting agreements, my investors were eager, and industry whispers confirmed what I already knew. My parents' company was running out of time. If I didn't buy them out, someone else would, probably at an even lower price. I told myself this was just business. Cold, logical, inevitable. But if that were true, why did my stomach twist every time I thought about my dad's voice saying, "This isn't just business. This is blood"? Then Adam made his move. One morning, I walked into my office to find him waiting. Again. This time, he wasn't screaming or red-faced. He was calm. Too calm. He gestured for me to sit. Against my better judgment, I did. "You don't have to do this," he said flatly. "We both know you've already won. Clients love you. Employees follow you. You don't need to take our company." "Our?" I repeated. "Funny. When I worked there, it was never ours. It was always yours." Adam smirked. "Still holding on to that chip on your shoulder? Huh? You've always needed to prove you're better than me. Well, congratulations, you did. You've beaten me. But if you take this last step, if you kill what's left, you won't just beat me. You'll bury Mom and Dad with me. Do you really want that on your conscience?" For the first time, he wasn't just the smug golden boy. He was desperate. Hollow. A man who realized the throne he'd been promised was crumbling beneath him. I didn't answer. Instead, I stood and said, "You should start polishing your resume." That broke the mask. He grabbed my arm, his voice low and venomous. "If you take this from me, I'll make sure you regret it. You think you're the hero? You're not. You'll never be." Security escorted him out again, but his words lingered. Later that night, as I sat at my desk, the contract draft glowing on my laptop screen, I felt the full weight of my choice. If I signed it, my parents would lose everything. The business they built, the legacy they cherished, the safety net they clung to, it would all be mine. And Adam? He'd have nothing. No power, no position, no future in the industry. Part of me thrilled at the thought. After years of being dismissed, belittled, and betrayed, this was justice. This was revenge served ice cold. But another part of me hesitated. What if this wasn't justice? What if it was cruelty? Would I really be any better than them if I took everything? I closed the laptop and poured myself a drink. My reflection in the glass looked like a stranger. Someone who wanted blood. Someone who couldn't let go. And that's when it hit me. The real question wasn't whether I could destroy them. It was whether I could live with myself if I did. The papers were ready. All I had to do was sign. Tomorrow, the legacy would either die or it would be mine. The next morning, I sat in my office with the contract in front of me. My legal team was ready. All I had to do was sign. My hands hovered over the pen. It felt like a movie moment, the kind where the music swells and the character either chooses mercy or vengeance. But this wasn't a movie. This was my life. I thought about the younger me, the kid who worked summers in the warehouse, the college grad who gave up nights and weekends, the son who believed one day his hard work would matter. That kid had been tossed aside like nothing. I thought about Adam, the smirk when I was fired, the arrogance, the threats. He'd never see me as an equal. He only understood power. And I thought about my parents. Their silence, their favoritism, their sudden desperation when the empire they built started crumbling. Every memory, every slight, every wound piled up until the decision became crystal clear. I signed. By the end of the week, the deal was official. My company absorbed theirs. Employees who wanted to stay transitioned under my leadership. The rest were given severance. Suppliers were contacted, contracts renegotiated. Within days, the name that had once been my family's legacy was erased from the market. The fallout was brutal. Adam blew up my phone with messages, half threats, half pathetic pleas. My dad sent one final email, cold and curt. "You'll regret this one day." My mom, though, she just sent one line, "I hope this was worth it." For weeks, I told myself it was. Clients celebrated. Industry insiders congratulated me. My employees saw me as a powerhouse. I had taken down a competitor and grown my empire in one move. On paper, it was the smartest decision I'd ever made. But in the quiet moments, late at night when the adrenaline faded, I wondered, was it revenge? Was it justice? Or was it cruelty? I kept replaying my mom's words. I hope this was worth it. The truth is, I don't know. On one hand, they fired me, humiliated me, and chose Adam over me. They reaped what they sowed. I didn't burn their company down out of spite. I bought it fair and square. That's business. On the other hand, they were still my parents. Adam was still my brother. And I didn't just let them fail. I made sure I was the one holding the shovel when they hit the bottom. So now I'm here, typing this out because I can't shake the question. I had the chance to save my family's business, the same one I once devoted years of my life to. Instead, I let it collapse and bought it out through my own company, effectively erasing their legacy and leaving my brother with nothing. I don't regret building my own success, but I can't decide if I crossed a line when I destroyed theirs. So Reddit, AITA for letting my parents' business die and buying it out instead of saving them?